12 men had sat in the blue parlor of Ashford House. A surgeon, 2 investors, a federal judge's son, 3 founders who had sold companies before turning 40, an architect whose face appeared in magazines, a former professional athlete, a diplomat, and 2 men whose families had known the Ashfords long enough to believe that familiarity counted as compatibility. Every one of them left believing the evening had gone well. Several sent flowers. 4 asked for a second date. 1 sent an emerald bracelet Helena Ashford returned unopened. None of them knew they had failed. They had failed the same test. No question had been asked, no rule explained, no answer requested. Helena had simply watched. And after the 12th man left, she told her assistant she was finished. No more introductions, no more dinners, no more well-dressed men performing gentleness around her wheelchair while trying to decide whether marrying Helena Ashford would be worth the complications. Then, 6 weeks later, a widowed carpenter named Adrian Cole walked into her library carrying a tool bag, an overdue truck payment, and absolutely no idea that there had ever been a test. He was not there to impress her. He was not there to date her. He did not know how much she was worth. And before his first hour inside Ashford House was over, he did the one thing all 12 suitors had failed to do. Helena said nothing about it. She simply watched him leave, then looked at the small silver bell sitting beside her chair. For the first time in months, she wondered whether the test had ever been about romance at all. If you have ever believed character shows itself most clearly when a person does not know they are being judged, tap like and tell me below what quiet quality matters most to you in another person. Adrian Cole arrived at Ashford House at 8:12 on a Wednesday morning. He was supposed to be there at 8. He hated being late. His daughter had hidden one of his work boots, not deliberately. Maisie was 7, and according to Maisie, leaving a work boot beneath the dining table with a blanket inside it was not hiding it. It was making a bed for Mr. Pickles. Mr. Pickles was a stuffed rabbit missing one eye. Adrian had found the boot at 7:31, then discovered his truck had less fuel than he remembered, then spent 11 minutes behind a school bus, stopping at every street between his neighborhood and the interstate. By the time the wrought iron gates of Ashford House opened, Adrian had already decided the client would probably fire him before he touched a piece of wood. The property did not improve his confidence. Ashford House sat outside Charleston beneath live oaks that looked older than several countries. White columns, long brick terraces, dark shutters. Gardens planned so precisely that even the disorder looked expensive. The original portion of the house had been built before the Civil War, expanded twice, restored 3 times, and according to the packet Adrian received, protected under enough historical agreements to make drilling one unauthorized screw hole feel like a federal offense. He parked his 12-year-old truck beside a row of newer vehicles near the service entrance. His business name was painted on the door: Cole Restoration and Woodwork. The word restoration was beginning to peel. Adrian noticed. He added repaint truck lettering to the mental list of things he could not currently afford. The actual list was longer. Truck payments, Maisie's school field trip fee, property insurance for his shop, a dentist bill. 3 months of reduced work after a commercial restoration project collapsed when the developer lost financing. He still had 2 employees. Barely keeping them meant Adrian paid himself last. Some weeks that worked. Others required creative definitions of the word paid. He grabbed his tool bag and walked toward the service entrance. A woman in her late 50s met him inside. "Mr. Cole?" "Yes, sorry I'm late." She looked at the clock. 12 minutes. "I know. I'm Miriam Vale, estate manager." Adrian knew the name from the emails. "Good to meet you." Miriam looked at his boots, then at the tool bag, then back at him. "You understand the library threshold cannot simply be replaced." "Yes, the flooring is original heart pine. I read the survey. The door casing is protected. I know. The brass track is original to the 1928 renovation. Also read that. And Mrs. Ashford does not want visible modern modifications." Adrian paused. "Mrs.?" Miriam corrected herself. "Miss Ashford." Adrian nodded. He had not researched the owner. He rarely researched clients beyond what the job required. It prevented assumptions. Miriam led him through a rear corridor. The house was beautiful in ways Adrian appreciated professionally. Old joinery, hand-planed trim, original plaster, doors that had survived a century because somebody once built them without calculating the cheapest acceptable material. He slowed near one staircase. Miriam noticed. "You're here for the library." "I know." "You're looking at the railing." "Original?" "Mostly. Newell post is older than the balusters." Miriam looked at him. "You can tell?" "Different tool marks." He moved on. The library occupied the southeast corner of the house. Tall windows, built-in shelves. A fireplace large enough to stand inside. Dark wood. Warm morning light. At the far end, French doors opened toward a covered terrace overlooking the garden. That was where the problem lived. Adrian saw it immediately. The interior floor sat almost 2 inches above the terrace surface. Normally, that would have been simple. Install a beveled transition, build a shallow, removable ramp, adjust drainage. Done, except nothing about the doorway was normal. The original brass threshold ran beneath the doors. The historic flooring could not be cut, the exterior stone could not be drilled, and the opening was narrower than current accessibility standards would allow. Adrian crouched. He took out a small measuring tape. Behind him, a voice said, "The last contractor told me to stop using the terrace." Adrian looked over his shoulder. A woman sat near the fireplace in a wheelchair. He had not heard her enter. That was the first thing that surprised him. The second was how young she was. Mid-30s, maybe 36. Dark hair, gray trousers, cream blouse, no jewelry except a watch. Her wheelchair was compact, graphite-colored, and clearly customized. Adrian stood. "Helena Ashford?" "Yes, Adrian Cole." "I know." Of course she knew. He worked for her. Adrian glanced at the doorway again. "The last contractor said you should stop using it?" "He said there are 2 other garden exits." "There are. You've seen them?" "On the plans." Then perhaps he was correct. Adrian looked at the terrace, then at her. "No." Helena's expression changed slightly. "No? The other exits are on the north and west sides." "Yes, the garden you want is there." He pointed through the doors. Helena looked at him. "You know what garden I want? There's a worn path in the terrace stone heading toward the greenhouse." She followed his gaze. Adrian continued. "The other doors don't help if this is where you want to go." Silence. Helena moved closer. The chair made almost no sound. 3 contractors have looked at this threshold. That's encouraging. It should be discouraging. I was trying optimism. You should stop. Adrian almost smiled. He crouched again. What did they propose? Permanent ramp over the brass. Not good. Replacing the threshold. Worse, removing part of the door casing. Absolutely not. Helena watched him. The 4th suggested an electric lift. Adrian looked back. For 2 inches? Yes, that person sells electric lifts. He does. Adrian nodded. Makes sense. Helena's mouth moved. Not quite a smile. He continued measuring. Near her right wheel sat a small table. On it rested a silver handbell. Old, simple, the handle had darkened from years of use. Adrian noticed it only because he needed to move the table to measure the wall clearance. He pointed. Can I shift this 6 inches? Helena looked at the table. Yes, he moved it. The bell slid toward the edge. Adrian caught the table before it tipped. The bell remained upright. He finished measuring, then put the table exactly where it had been. Helena watched. Adrian walked through the doorway to inspect the terrace side. He crouched, ran his fingers along the stone. Drainage slopes inward. I know. That's why the wood is swelling at the left jamb. I was told the door was simply old. It is old. He pressed one finger to the damp discoloration. It's also getting wet. Helena rolled closer. The threshold stopped her before the terrace. The front casters met the brass rise. She could cross it. probably with momentum. Adrian saw marks in the brass where wheels had struck repeatedly. He stepped back. Helena positioned her chair, then stopped. Adrian looked at her. She looked at him. Neither spoke. The silver bell sat on the table beside her, close enough for Adrian to reach. Close enough for Helena to reach too, though it would require leaning. He looked from her to the threshold, then to the terrace. What normally happens here? Helena's expression became unreadable. What do you mean, when you go outside? I cross it. That's not what I asked. Silence. Adrian waited. Helena said, sometimes Miriam brings the portable ramp. Where is it? In the hall closet. He looked toward the corridor. Why isn't it kept here? Because it's ugly. That is an excellent reason to make a better one. Her eyebrows lifted. Adrian pointed at the threshold. Do you want to go out now? The question landed strangely. Helena looked at him for a second too long. Yes, okay, he walked toward the hall. She said, where are you going? To get the ramp. You don't have to. You said you want to go outside. I can cross it. Adrian looked at the marks in the brass. I know. Something sharpened in her face. You think I can't? No. Then why get the ramp? Because hitting a 2-inch piece of metal every day isn't good for your front casters, your shoulders, the brass, or the door. Helena stared. Adrian added, you can absolutely keep doing it. But I'm here because the doorway is wrong. Not you. The doorway. He did not say the second sentence. He did not need to. Helena's eyes moved toward the silver bell. Adrian did not notice. He went to find the ramp. Miriam was in the hall. You need something? Portable ramp. She pointed toward a closet. Adrian retrieved it. Heavy aluminum. Functional, ugly. Helena had been correct about that. He placed it over the threshold, checked stability, then stepped aside. No pushing, no reaching for the chair, no instructions. Helena rolled across. The terrace opened before her. Morning light reached the garden. Adrian followed only after she had cleared the doorway. What do you think? She asked. About? The threshold. He crouched outside. I can fix it. Without cutting the floor? Yes, without drilling stone. Yes, without covering the brass. Yes, how? Not sure yet. Helena stared. That answer contradicts the first three. No. Yes, it does. I know I can solve the geometry. He tapped the stone lightly. I don't know which solution will make you least angry. That time she smiled. Small, brief, real. Adrian looked at the garden. Give me 2 days. You have 1. Why? I'm hosting people Saturday. Today is Wednesday. Yes, that is more than 1 day. I want the doorway finished Friday morning. That's 2. You're argumentative. Mostly about calendars. Helena looked toward the greenhouse. Friday, Adrian nodded. I'll have a design tonight. He packed his tools 40 minutes later. Miriam walked him out. At the service entrance, she stopped. You did not ring the bell. Adrian looked at her. What bell? Miriam stared. The silver bell in the library. Oh, he thought about it. Why would I? Miriam's face gave nothing away. No reason. Adrian left. When he was gone, Miriam returned to the library. Helena was still on the terrace. The silver bell sat where it always sat. Miriam looked at it, then at Helena. Well? Helena did not turn. He wasn't a suitor. I am aware. He didn't know. That is usually the point of a test. Helena's jaw tightened. It isn't a test for contractors. Miriam smiled faintly. Apparently, Helena looked back at the bell. 12 men had rung it. Every one. That had been the test. Not whether they would help. Whether they would decide help was necessary before asking Helena what she wanted. The idea had begun with her father. Not as a dating test. As a warning. When Helena was 13, she had broken her ankle during a tennis match. For 6 weeks, she used crutches. Her father watched people rush ahead of her. Pull chairs. Carry bags she had not offered. Open doors she was not approaching. Once, at a restaurant, a waiter took her crutches and leaned them against a wall because he believed they were in the way. Her father retrieved them. Later he told her something Helena never forgot. Watch the person who solves your problem before asking whether it is your problem. At 13, she thought he meant waiters. At 36, after paralysis, she understood. Her spinal cord injury had happened 2 years earlier. A highway collision. Driver survived. Helena survived. Movement below the waist changed. Some sensation remained. Some muscle activation. Walking was uncertain. Wheelchair use became normal. And almost overnight, people began making decisions around her body as though accessibility had transferred ownership of those decisions to everyone nearby. Would you like me to let me? I'll get someone. You shouldn't. Maybe it's easier if. The silver bell had belonged to Helena's grandmother. It once sat beside her bed during the final year of her life. After Helena's accident, Miriam placed it beside the library chair. Ring if you need me. Helena hated it immediately. She hated what it suggested. Need, summon, wait, depend, yet she kept it. Then came her mother's campaign. Celeste Ashford believed Helena was lonely. Celeste was not entirely wrong. That made her harder to dismiss. You work. I enjoy working. You rehabilitate. I enjoy that less. You come home. I own the home. You eat dinner with Miriam. Miriam is delightful. Miriam had been standing 3 feet away when Helena said this. She had not looked delighted. Celeste continued. You are 36. I can count. You wanted a family. Helena went quiet. That was the wound. Before the accident, she had been engaged. Charles Keene. Private equity. Excellent education. Excellent manners. Excellent photographs. He remained for 5 months after the collision, then told Helena he could no longer distinguish loving her from being responsible for her. She had never asked him to be responsible for her. That did not matter. He had already decided what loving her required. So he left. 2 years later, Celeste began arranging introductions. Helena refused, then agreed on one condition. No one would be told about the bell. Dinner in the blue parlor. Drinks afterward in the library. At some point, Helena would mention the terrace. If the man wanted to continue the evening outside, they would reach the threshold. No portable ramp visible. Silver bell on the table. Helena would say nothing. 12 men. 12 different versions of the same mistake. The surgeon rang immediately. You shouldn't risk your shoulders. An investor did not ring. He simply walked behind Helena and grabbed the push handles. She ended that evening 4 minutes later. The architect called Miriam without touching the bell because he believed the portable ramp looked undignified and suggested designing a discreet lift. The athlete offered to carry Helena. One man said they could enjoy the garden from the window. Another told her she was inspiring for navigating such an old house. The diplomat passed the first 30 seconds. Then Helena asked whether he wanted to go outside. He smiled, rang the bell, and said, We'll get someone to help us. Us, as though Helena's doorway had become his problem to manage. After 12, she stopped. Miriam asked what passing looked like. Helena had not known. Until Adrian Cole looked at the threshold and asked one simple question. Do you want to go out now? Then fix the environment instead of managing the woman. He had passed. And he had no idea. Adrian spent Wednesday night at his kitchen table with 3 sheets of graph paper. Maisie sat across from him drawing a dragon wearing roller skates. Why are you making a triangle? Ramp. Looks bad. Thank you. Is it for the rich house? Yes, rich people have stairs. Many, that seems inefficient. Adrian measured again. The problem was the historic threshold. He needed a ramp that could bridge the rise without fastening into the floor or stone. Removable, stable, beautiful enough that Helena would not hide it. He sketched a shallow folding structure. Walnut top surface to visually match the library. Hidden aluminum frame. Rubber contact points. No drilling. The ramp could store vertically inside a custom cabinet beside the door and unfold in seconds. Maisie leaned across. Put handles. Why? So she can pull it. Adrian stopped. He looked at the drawing. The current portable ramp required somebody to carry it from the closet. His design still required somebody else to deploy it. He had been thinking like every contractor before him. Make a better ramp, not make the doorway independently usable. He erased half the drawing. Maisie watched. I helped. You did. Do I get money? No, unfair. What do you want? Ice cream. Negotiable. At 11:40, Adrian found the answer. A counterbalanced folding ramp stored flat against the interior wall. One side mounted only into a new freestanding cabinet structure, not historic fabric. A recessed handle at wheelchair height. Pull, ramp lowered slowly. Cross, lift with minimal force from either side. No staff. No bell. Adrian smiled. Then the smile faded. Custom metal fabrication would normally take a week. He had 48 hours. At 7 the next morning, he called his friend Owen. I need a frame. When? Today, Owen laughed. Adrian waited. You're serious? Yes, I have actual customers. I am an actual customer. You still owe me from the church rail job, I know. How much? Adrian looked at his bank balance. Can I owe you more? Silence, Owen sighed. Send the drawing. By 9, Adrian was at Ashford House. Helena waited in the library. You look tired. Compliment accepted. That was not a compliment. I have a design. He spread the drawings across a table. Helena studied them. She asked good questions. Load rating. Surface grip. Historic preservation. Storage force required. Then she saw the handle. What is this? Deployment. Who operates it? You, she looked up. Adrian continued as though the answer were obvious. Or anyone. But from chair height. Silence. You changed the design. Yes. Why? My daughter said I designed something you still needed somebody else to set up. Helena looked at him. Your daughter reviewed my accessibility ramp. She has aggressive opinions. How old? 7 and qualified? In her mind extremely, Helena almost smiled. Adrian pointed. Counterbalance means it should take less than 8 pounds of force. Should? Owen is building the frame now. Who is Owen? Man currently regretting our friendship. Helena studied the plans again. What does this cost? Adrian gave the number. She frowned. That's low. No, it is. Materials plus labor. And design? Included. You spent last night designing it. That is labor. Helena looked at him. You undercharge. Adrian gathered the drawings. My accountant says the same. You have an accountant? No, that earned a laugh. It startled both of them. Adrian looked at her. Helena's laughter disappeared. Not because she regretted it, because she had forgotten it happened. He looked away first. I'll install tomorrow. Friday morning, the ramp worked. Not perfectly. The counterbalance needed adjustment. Adrian made it. The wood finish was slightly lighter than the library floor. Helena noticed. Adrian agreed. He darkened it. By 11:30, the device folded against the wall inside a walnut cabinet that looked as though it had always belonged there. Adrian stood beside the doorway. Try it. Helena reached for the handle. Pulled, the ramp lowered smoothly. She crossed, turned on the terrace, then raised it from the outside using the second handle. No one touched her chair. No one brought equipment. No one rang a bell. Helena sat very still. Adrian misread the silence. You hate it. No? The cabinet? No finish? No then? She looked toward the silver bell. Adrian followed her gaze. What is with that thing? Helena looked back. What? Everyone keeps looking at the bell. Miriam, standing near the shelves, suddenly became interested in a stack of books. Helena said, It belonged to my grandmother. Okay, Adrian waited. Nothing all right. He began packing. Helena almost laughed at how little curiosity he showed. You don't want to know why it's there? If you want to tell me. And if I don't, then I have clamps to load. He meant it. She could tell. That unsettled her more than flirting would have. Saturday's guests arrived at 6. They were not suitors. Board members, senior executives, investors. Ashford Meridian Group was Helena's company. Luxury residential development. Historic hotel restoration. High-end commercial property. The irony of leading a real estate company from a house with an inaccessible doorway had not been lost on her. After the accident, Helena forced Ashford Meridian to audit every property it owned, not just for code, for usability. That decision cost millions. The board accepted the first phase, then the second. By the third, resistance began. Accessibility spending did not always produce an obvious return. Helena argued that hospitality buildings were useless if guests had to negotiate them like obstacles. Board Chairman Everett Shaw argued that retrofitting profitable historic properties beyond code requirements was mission drift. Saturday's dinner was meant to settle the next capital plan. Adrian knew none of this. He was home making macaroni with Maisie. Helena moved through dinner surrounded by people who agreed with her politely until money entered the conversation. Everett waited until dessert. The Savannah property alone is $14 million. It needs rebuilding. It needs selective upgrades. The accessible rooms are technically compliant and practically terrible. Technical compliance matters. To regulators. And shareholders. Helena looked at him. Guests matter. Everett sighed. Helena, she hated when board members used her name like a calming medication. We have 86 properties. Yes, you cannot redesign the world because navigating it became personal. The table went quiet. Miriam, standing near the doorway, looked at Helena. Helena's hand tightened beneath the table. There it was. The argument beneath every argument. Because you use a wheelchair, your judgment is emotional. Before the accident, Helena had spent money on lobbies, art, custom fragrance programs, rooftop bars. No one called those decisions personal. Now she wanted doorways that worked. Suddenly she lacked objectivity. Helena said, "The capital plan stands." Everett leaned back. "You may not have the votes." She looked at him. "Then vote." The meeting ended without resolution. Helena returned to the library. The silver bell sat beside the window. The new ramp waited near the terrace door. She pulled the handle, crossed outside. Alone, for the first time since the accident, she entered the south garden without calling anyone. It should have felt triumphant. Instead, she cried. Quietly, angrily, not because of the ramp, because independence had arrived in 6 square feet of walnut and aluminum. And she had spent 2 years believing the things she wanted required someone else's permission. The next Monday, Adrian received a call. Not from Helena. "Miriam, there are 6 more doorways." Adrian smiled. "Of course there are, and 2 bathrooms." "Historic?" "Yes, of course. And Miss Ashford wants you to inspect the greenhouse." Adrian paused. "Why?" "The door is narrow. I noticed." "You noticed on the first day?" "Yes," Miriam sighed. "Can you come tomorrow?" The job expanded. 1 threshold became 6. 6 became an accessibility review of the estate. Adrian brought tape measures, templates, mock-ups. He argued with preservation consultants. Helena argued with him. "Often, you cannot remove that molding. It's reproduction. It matches the original. So will the new piece." "No, then your chair clearance remains 30 inches. I can pass 30. You scrape the wheel, I do not." Adrian pointed at a mark. "That is graphite." Helena glared. "Stop examining my wheels. They are leaving evidence." "Against me?" "Against the doorway." Another morning, "This handle is fine. You lean forward 6 inches. I can lean." "I know. Then why change it?" "Because your mother is 5'3". Helena stopped. "What?" "She used it yesterday. She struggled too." Helena stared at him. "You're making accessibility universal." "No, then what?" "Bad design annoys everybody. Some people just have less room to compensate." Helena wrote that sentence down later. Adrian never knew. Weeks passed. He began eating lunch at Ashford House because leaving cost time. Miriam fed him. Helena occasionally appeared. They talked. At first about buildings, then business, then children. Helena had no children. She once wanted 3. She did not tell Adrian that part. Adrian told stories about Maisie because Maisie generated stories automatically. The science fair volcano that erupted before school. The time she tried to charge neighborhood children 50 cents to look at a dead cicada. Her conviction that raisins were grapes that lost hope. Helena laughed more around him. Miriam noticed. Helena noticed Miriam noticing. That irritated her. Stop matchmaking. I said nothing. You have a face. I have always had one. You are enjoying this. Immensely, Helena looked toward the library doors. Adrian was outside, measuring the greenhouse entrance. He has no interest in me. Miriam said, that is a remarkable conclusion for someone who has never asked. He treats me like a client. You are his client. Exactly, Miriam smiled. Helena hated that smile. The first crack in Adrian's own armor happened when Maisie got sick. Fever, nothing serious, but high enough for school to send her home. Adrian canceled 2 days. On the third morning, Helena called him herself. How is she? Adrian looked at the phone. You called to ask about Maisie? I called about the greenhouse. Liar, silence, then, how is she? Better. Does she need anything? No. The answer came too quickly. Helena heard it. Adrian, she's fine. That is not what I asked. He leaned against the kitchen counter. Maisie slept on the couch. A pharmacy bag sat unopened beside him. His insurance had covered most of the medication. Not all. He had spent the morning deciding which bill could wait. We're good. Helena knew the tone. It was the same voice she used when people asked whether she needed help. Fine, good, handled, conversation over. She did not push. All right. Adrian relaxed. Then she said, your invoice from last month is still unpaid. What? It should have cleared Friday. I haven't checked. I have. Why? Because Miriam told me accounting requested another vendor form. Adrian closed his eyes. That payment mattered. A lot. Helena continued. I corrected it. Thank you. It will clear today. That helps. She heard the honesty. Helena said nothing else. No offer, no charity, no rescue. Just money he had earned. Adrian remembered that. He returned Thursday. Maisie came with him. Not by plan. Elena's shift changed. School was closed for teacher training. Adrian had no backup. I can reschedule, he told Miriam. Helena heard from the library. Bring her. Adrian looked over. She is 7. I understand how age works. She asks questions. I've survived boards. Not the same. Maisie entered Ashford House carrying a backpack covered in planets. She looked around. Then whispered, Is this a castle? Adrian said, No. Helena said, Almost. Maisie saw the wheelchair. Adrian saw Maisie see the wheelchair. Don't. Maisie frowned. I didn't say anything. You were preparing. Helena watched. Maisie approached. Are you Helena? Yes. My dad says you own too many doors. Adrian closed his eyes. Helena laughed. He said that? He said old houses have too many doors and rich people make them worse. I did not say rich people make them worse. You said sometimes. Context matters. Maisie looked at Helena. Do you have kids? No. Why? Adrian nearly dropped his tape measure. Maisie, what? Helena did not look offended. I didn't get around to it. Maisie nodded as though this were a reasonable scheduling issue. You can borrow me. Helena blinked. Adrian said, she is not transferable property. For like an hour. No, Helena smiled. What would borrowing you involve? Snacks, expensive, I like strawberries. Luxury. Maisie walked toward the library table. She saw the silver bell. What's this? Helena became still. The bell. The test. The thing 12 men had failed. Maisie picked it up before Adrian could stop her. She rang it. A bright little sound crossed the room. Adrian winced. Put it down. Maisie did. Sorry, Helena looked at the bell. Then at the child. Do you know what it's for? To call people. Yes, like hotels? Something like that. Maisie frowned. Why not yell? Adrian said, we do not yell for people. What if they're far? Phone. Maisie looked at Helena. Do you use it? Helena paused. Not anymore. Maisie nodded. Then why keep it? The question landed harder than anything an adult had asked. Helena stared at the bell. I don't know. Maisie shrugged. Could use it for dinner. Adrian guided her away. Let's go inspect the greenhouse before you reorganize Miss Ashford's life. Maisie whispered loudly. She said I could borrow me. I heard. Outside, Maisie helped Adrian measure. She held the end of the tape. Badly, Helena watched from the terrace. Something in her chest ached, not sadness exactly. Possibility that frightened her. The child catalyst did not arrive as one dramatic declaration. It came through accumulation. Maisie leaving a drawing on Helena's desk. Maisie asking why the garden path had gravel if wheels hated gravel. Maisie bringing a small wooden bird she had painted in school because your shelves are too serious. Maisie asking Helena to hold her juice while she tied a shoe. Not Helena asking for help. Helena being asked. The reversal mattered more than anyone understood. One afternoon, Maisie sat beside Helena in the library while Adrian argued with a preservation consultant outside. He gets mad at doors, Maisie said. He gets mad at badly designed doors. He gets mad at everything. Helena smiled. Not everything. Taxes, reasonable. Traffic, also reasonable. People who don't use turn signals. Your father sounds wise. Maisie became quiet, then asked, Do you like him? Helena stopped. Children did not circle questions. What? My dad. Helena looked toward the terrace. Adrian was pointing at a doorframe like it had insulted his ancestors. Yes, Maisie nodded. He likes you. Helena's heart moved. You don't know that. Yes, I do. How? He changes shirts before coming here. Helena stared. Maisie continued. He doesn't for Mr. Carlson. Who is Mr. Carlson? Old guy with porch. Helena almost laughed. Compelling evidence. And he talks about your doors. That sounds less romantic. He talks about you too. Helena looked down. What does he say? Maisie thought. He says you notice things. Helena waited. Is that good? He says it like good. The child went back to drawing. Helena sat very still. That evening, Adrian found the silver bell in a cardboard box near the library door. He pointed. Getting rid of it? Helena looked at the box. Maybe. Why? Maisie asked why I kept it. And? I didn't have an answer. Adrian nodded. No deep interpretation. No speech. He picked up the box to move it out of his work area. Helena said there was a test. Adrian stopped. What test? She immediately regretted beginning, but the open loop had been waiting. 12 men. Adrian looked confused. That sounds ominous. Suitors, he stared. Suitors? My mother calls them introductions. Of course she does. Helena almost smiled. I agreed to 12 dinners. Why exactly 12? My mother negotiated down from 20. Adrian laughed. Helena pointed at the box. The bell was part of it. He looked inside. The silver handle caught the light. How? Helena explained. The terrace, the threshold. No ramp visible, no request. The bell beside her. I watched what they did. Adrian's expression changed slowly. You tested them. Yes, without telling them. Yes, that's not entirely fair. She stiffened. I didn't say it was. What counted as failing? Deciding what I needed before asking. Adrian looked toward the new ramp. Understanding arrived. You did that to me. Helena said nothing. First day. You weren't a suitor. That does not answer. No, Adrian stared. Then laughed. Helena frowned. What is funny? I thought Miriam was strange about the bell. She knew. Of course she did. He looked at Helena. So what did I do? She hated how vulnerable the answer felt. You asked if I wanted to go outside. That's it? No, you got the ramp. Yes, because the threshold was terrible. I know. Adrian shook his head. You need a better test. Helena stared. I beg your pardon? 12 men failed because they rang a bell? One tried to carry me. Okay, he definitely failed. One grabbed my chair. Also terrible. Another suggested I stop using the terrace. Idiot. Helena's mouth moved. Adrian continued. But if somebody rings a bell because they think that's normal in this enormous house, maybe they're just confused. You're defending my suitors? No, I think you are. I'm defending statistical methodology. Helena laughed. The sound filled the library. Adrian watched. Then something shifted. He did not look away. Neither did she. Silence, different this time. Helena said quietly, "You passed." Adrian's smile faded. "What?" "The test." He looked at the ramp, then at her. "I wasn't taking it." "I know." That was the point. Neither said it. They both felt it. The romance could have begun there. It almost did. Then Ashford Meridian nearly collapsed into a board revolt. The Accessibility Capital Plan came to vote. Everett Shaw had gathered enough directors to force a review, not remove Helena, limit her unilateral spending authority, require board approval for accessibility upgrades exceeding code compliance. He framed it as governance. Some of it was. That made the threat harder. Helena prepared for 3 weeks. Property data, guest complaints, occupancy numbers, insurance claims, employee injury records, potential market expansion. She built the argument as business, not emotion. Then an internal email leaked. Not from Helena. From a junior executive describing the accessibility plan as Helena's personal crusade after the accident. The press picked it up, business outlets repeated it, investors called. Suddenly the board vote was not only about money. It became about whether Helena's paralysis had compromised her judgment. Adrian saw the article while sitting in his truck outside a hardware supplier. He read it twice, then called Helena. She did not answer. He texted, "Do you need anything?" 3 minutes later, no. Adrian stared. He knew that answer. He typed, "Okay," then did nothing. That was harder than calling again. The following day, Helena canceled all estate work. Miriam called Adrian. "She doesn't want anyone here." "Is she okay?" "No. Do you want me to come?" She said no. Adrian looked at the half-built greenhouse door assembly in his shop. "Then I won't." He stayed away. 3 days. On the 4th, Helena called. "The greenhouse door is unfinished." Adrian smiled slightly. "It is. Are you planning to finish it?" "You canceled." "I'm uncanceling. I'll be there tomorrow." Silence. Then Helena said, "Adrian." "Yes?" "You could have called. You said you didn't need anything. That has never stopped anyone." "It stops me." The line went quiet. That answer mattered. The next morning he arrived at 7:45. Helena was already in the library. She looked exhausted. The silver bell was back on the table. Adrian noticed. "You kept it." "I changed my mind." "About throwing it away?" "Yes." "Why?" She touched the handle. "Because I decided getting rid of something isn't the same as becoming free of what it means." Adrian nodded. "That's annoyingly healthy." "I hate you." "No, you don't." The words came out before he thought. Both became still. Adrian looked down. "Sorry," Helena's voice was quieter. "No." He looked at her. "I don't." There it was. Not a confession, not yet, but no longer hidden. The costly setback arrived the next week. Ashford Meridian lost a hotel refinancing package. The lender cited uncertainty surrounding the capital plan and board governance. Cash pressure tightened. Everett proposed selling 2 historic properties Helena considered central to the company's identity. One was the Charleston Foundry Hotel, her father's first major restoration project. Helena refused. The board pushed. Everett met her privately. "You cannot protect every old building because your father touched it." Helena's face went cold. "This isn't about my father. It is partly. And accessibility is about my accident?" "I didn't say that." "You don't have to." Everett sighed. "I am trying to keep this company stable." "So am I." "Then compromise." "I have. Not enough." The vote was scheduled for Monday. Saturday afternoon, Helena went to rehabilitation. Adrian knew she went. He did not know what happened. Naomi called Miriam. Miriam told no one. During supported standing practice, Helena's right leg buckled unexpectedly. She fell. Not far. Therapists caught most of the weight. But she twisted badly enough to strain her shoulder. The same shoulder she relied on for transfers. No fracture. No major injury. But for several weeks, independence became harder. Transfers required assistance more often. Pain disturbed sleep. Therapy regressed. The timing was brutal. Helena felt as though every fear Everett implied had become visible. Dependent, compromised, emotional, she canceled Monday's board attendance in person and planned to join remotely. Adrian heard from Miriam. He arrived Sunday. Helena was furious. I didn't call you. No, then why are you here? Miriam did. I will fire Miriam. She says you threatened that monthly. Helena looked away. Adrian stayed near the doorway. He did not approach. What happened? Nothing, that's obviously false. I fell. He absorbed it. How bad? Shoulder strain. Need anything? No. He nodded. Then looked toward the unfinished cabinet near the terrace. I'll finish that. She stared. That's why you came? No. Then why? Adrian looked at her. Because I care. The sentence was there. He almost said it. Instead, because I said I wouldn't disappear when things got difficult. Helena's eyes filled instantly. She hated him for seeing. Don't. He stopped. Don't what? Make this noble. I'm not. You have a daughter. A business. Bills, employees. Yes, you do not need my problems. Adrian's face changed. I don't need your money either. That doesn't mean I refuse payment for work. That is not the same. No, he stepped closer. But you keep treating care like debt. Helena looked at him. Because it becomes debt. Sometimes, Charles. I'm not Charles. Silence. Adrian's voice stayed low. I'm also not going to tell you I will never disappoint you. Her jaw tightened. Comforting, I might. He shrugged. You might disappoint me. I already have. Several times. That almost earned a smile. Adrian continued. But I am not building an escape route before we even decide what this is. Helena looked at him. What is it? There, the question Maisie had opened weeks earlier. What are they to each other? Adrian breathed out. I don't know yet. Helena's eyes lowered. But I want to. She looked back up. He did not kiss her. Not then. He finished the cabinet, made her coffee, left at 6. No dramatic rescue, no promise. He came back Monday after the board meeting. Helena had attended remotely. The vote tied. Everett's proposal failed temporarily, not because Helena won, because one director abstained. 30 days until reconsideration. A clock. Pressure. Enough time to build a better case. Adrian became part of that case by accident. Ashford Meridian owned 86 properties. Helena wanted proof that accessibility improvements produced measurable operational value. Her strategy team had numbers, guest surveys, occupancy, compliance costs. What they did not have was field reality. Adrian had spent his career modifying old spaces without destroying what made them worth preserving. He understood the cost difference between bad retrofits and thoughtful ones. Helena asked him one evening, if I gave you access to 6 properties, could you tell me what we are wasting money on? Yes, she blinked. That quickly? Probably. You sound confident. I have spent 20 years watching architects place expensive things where tradespeople later have to undo them. He reviewed 6 hotels, found repeated mistakes, portable ramps stored too far away, accessible rooms technically compliant but with beds too high for transfers, bathroom doors that opened the wrong direction, historic lobby routes forcing disabled guests through service corridors, grab bars placed correctly by code but poorly relative to actual fixtures. Every small flaw created staff labor, guest complaints, damage, insurance exposure. Adrian calculated something Helena's team had missed. Bad accessibility was expensive operationally. Good accessibility reduced recurring labor. The business case changed. Helena expanded the review. Adrian resisted. I am not joining your company. Consultant, no. Temporary, no. Paid, still no. Why? I have a business. So? So I like my business. It's failing. The words hit too directly. Adrian's face closed. Helena immediately knew. That was unfair. Yes, I apologize. He gathered his papers. Adrian, he stopped. Helena looked at him. I'm trying to offer something useful. I know. Then why refuse? He looked toward the garden. My wife and I started the shop. Helena went quiet. Rachel chose the name. Cole Restoration and Woodwork. Of course. She painted the original sign. He continued. After she died, everyone told me to sell, take a maintenance job, get benefits, make life simpler. Why didn't you? Because closing it felt like admitting that part was over. Helena understood immediately. The Foundry Hotel. The chess, no, the bell. Objects and places became containers for people. Adrian looked at her. Maybe that's stupid. No, maybe I'm drowning to preserve something that doesn't need preserving. Helena did not answer quickly. Then, do you want the company? He looked at her. The shop. Yes, Adrian thought. I want what it was. That isn't available. The sentence hurt. Because it was true. Helena knew immediately. I'm sorry. No, he looked down. Don't be. She moved closer. My father built Ashford Meridian. Adrian waited. For 2 years I have defended every decision I associate with him because changing it feels like losing him again. She looked at the silver bell. Maybe keeping something exactly the same is another way of ringing for a person who cannot come. Adrian absorbed that. Neither spoke. The next week he accepted the consulting work. Not employment, not rescue. A 6-month contract large enough to stabilize his shop. He hired another carpenter. Kept the business. Changed what it did. Cole Restoration began specializing in historic accessibility retrofits. The shared build became real. Ashford Meridian created a preservation accessibility division using Adrian's field methods. Old buildings. New usability. No false choice between heritage and access. The initiative saved enough money on planned retrofits to offset a significant portion of Helena's capital program. Everett could not dismiss the numbers. The board vote approached. So did Helena's rehabilitation. Her shoulder improved. Transfers returned. Standing practice resumed. Naomi said nothing about walking. Helena preferred it. Weeks later, Adrian arrived early and found Helena in the library. Her wheelchair was behind her. She stood between 2 discrete support rails newly installed near the shelves. Not independently, braces, hands weight supported. But standing. Adrian stopped. Helena saw him. For 1 second panic flashed. Not physical. Emotional. He had caught her in the middle of trying. Sorry, he said. He turned toward the door. Stay, he stopped. Helena breathed. 10 seconds. 12. Her arm shook. She lowered herself. Adrian looked only when she had settled. Neither spoke. Finally, Helena said, 21. What? Seconds, Adrian nodded. Good. Her eyes narrowed. Good? Yes, no speech? About what? Progress, you hate speeches. I do. He smiled. Good, she threw a cushion at him. He caught it. Then something changed. Helena laughed. Adrian walked closer. She stopped. The room quieted. He said, Can I kiss you? No assumption, no taking. A question. Always a question. Helena looked at him. Yes, the kiss was brief. Gentle, nothing cinematic. No one watching. No violin hidden behind the bookshelves. When they separated, Helena whispered, You asked. Adrian frowned. What? She smiled. Nothing. He still did not fully understand how deeply that mattered. The board vote came 3 days later. Helena attended in person. Everett presented first. Capital discipline. Refinancing pressure. Historic asset sales. Then Helena. She did not argue that accessibility was morally good. Everyone in the room already knew how to agree morally while voting financially. She presented numbers. Maintenance savings. Guest retention. Reduced staff labor. Lower damage costs. New customer segments. Insurance exposure. Then, Adrian's 6-property field review. Then the redesigned capital plan. Phased, measured, property-specific. Not a crusade. Operations, Everett read the report twice. Finally, who prepared the field model? Helena answered, Adrian Cole. The carpenter. Yes, a contractor? Yes, Everett looked skeptical. He has no hospitality degree. No, no architecture license. No, then why is he shaping a $90 million capital plan? Helena smiled slightly. Because he knows what happens after architects go home. A few directors laughed. Everett did not. But he looked again. The vote passed. 8-3. Not a total victory. Enough, the Foundry Hotel stayed. The accessibility program stayed. Helena retained spending authority within the new phased structure. Everett approached afterward. I still think you overcorrect. I know. And I still think some of this is personal. It is. He looked surprised. Helena continued. My standards were personal before the accident, too. Silence. I simply did not have to defend them as personal. Everett absorbed that, then nodded. Fair, quiet vindication. No humiliation, no enemy destroyed. Just a man losing an argument and remaining in the room. That evening, Helena returned home exhausted. Miriam waited in the library. The silver bell sat on the table. So? Passed, Miriam smiled. Bored? Helena looked at the bell. The board too. Miriam laughed. Helena picked up the bell, turned it in her hand, then placed it inside a drawer, not thrown away, not displayed. A thing could remain without controlling the room. Months passed. Adrian's contract expanded. His shop stabilized. Maisie began referring to Helena as the door lady. Helena objected. Maisie considered the objection irrelevant. One Saturday, the three of them visited the Foundry Hotel during renovation. Maisie wore a hard hat far too large. She inspected Adrian's work with the authority of a government official. This ramp is boring. Adrian said, that is the goal. Put lights. No, blue lights. No, Helena said, I support lights. Adrian stared. You are the client from hell. Technically, I am the client everywhere. Maisie nodded. She got you. That afternoon, they ate sandwiches on an unfinished terrace. Maisie wandered 6 feet away to draw. Helena looked at Adrian. You know she tested you too. He frowned. Who? Maisie, for what? Whether you would disappear. Adrian became quiet. Helena remembered the child's blunt question. Are you going to disappear? She watches people. Gets that from Rachel. And you. Adrian looked toward his daughter. I didn't know she remembered as much as she does. Children usually do. He nodded, then looked at Helena. Did I pass? She smiled. You keep showing up. The answer settled between them. A year after Adrian first arrived late to Ashford House, Celeste Ashford hosted dinner. Not a matchmaking dinner. She had been banned from those. Family, Miriam, Maisie, Adrian, Helena. Celeste watched them from across the table. Finally, she said, so this is the carpenter. Adrian looked at Helena. This feels like an ambush. It is. Celeste smiled. I arranged 12 excellent men. Helena closed her eyes. Mother, 12. Adrian looked interested. I have heard about this. Celeste pointed at him. Surgeon, investors, diplomat, strong Ursum. None worked. Apparently, Celeste leaned forward. And then you arrived with sawdust. Usually, Helena said, can we discuss literally anything else? Maisie looked up. What happened to 12 men? Silence. Adrian laughed first. Celeste delightedly began. Helena threatened to leave. Maisie demanded the whole story. By dessert, the silver bell had become family legend. Maisie stared at Helena. That was the test? Yes, you need a better test. Adrian pointed. Thank you. Helena looked betrayed. Maisie continued. What if a man thought the bell was for snacks? Adrian laughed so hard he had to put down his glass. Helena shook her head. I regret inviting either of you. Later, after Maisie fell asleep on the sofa, Adrian and Helena sat alone in the library. The terrace doors were open, the folding ramp down, the night warm. Adrian looked toward the table where the bell once sat. Where is it? Drawer. Why? I don't need it sitting there anymore. He nodded, then reached into his jacket. Small box. Helena saw it. Her entire body became still. Adrian, he looked suddenly nervous. That pleased her. He opened the box. A ring. Simple, elegant, Not enormous. He said. I planned words. That sounds dangerous. It was. Continue, he breathed. I loved Rachel. Helena's eyes softened. I know. I still do in whatever form that becomes. I know. And I love Maisie. Obviously, and I love you. Helena said nothing. Adrian continued. I don't think one love replaces another. No, I don't want a new life because the old one failed. His voice tightened. I want this life because it's ours. Helena's eyes filled. Adrian held the ring. I cannot promise I'll always ask the right question. You won't. Helpful. You're welcome. I cannot promise I'll never assume. You do constantly. Helena, she smiled through tears. Continue. He laughed softly. I can promise that when you tell me I'm wrong, I'll try to listen before defending myself. That is an exceptionally ambitious vow. I know. He looked at her. Will you marry me? Helena did not answer immediately, not because she doubted him. Because 2 years earlier the word marriage had become tangled with dependency, responsibility, burden, exit. 12 polished men later, she had tried to turn uncertainty into a test. Then a carpenter who did not know he was being tested taught her the flaw in that too. No test could guarantee a person stayed. Tests could reveal habits, not futures. Love remained risk. That was the part she had spent years trying to engineer away. She looked at Adrian. Yes. His shoulders dropped. You could have answered faster. I was building suspense. Cruel, I've been told. He placed the ring on her hand. Then, Helena said, there is something you should know. Adrian froze. That sentence after yes is illegal. She laughed. The first day. The threshold? The bell. I know. No. She looked at him. You still don't understand. Apparently not. I did not pass you because you got the ramp. Adrian frowned. What? You passed because you asked what I wanted. Silence. And because after I answered, you believed me. Adrian looked at her. Helena continued. 12 men saw a wheelchair and a problem. You saw a doorway and a client. That sounds less romantic than you think. It was extremely romantic. I was working. I know. That was your test? Yes, Adrian stared. Then laughed. You are insane. Possibly I could have failed because I was distracted. You did not. I didn't even know. I know. That was the whole point. The wedding took place in the South Garden, not because Helena had dreamed of a garden wedding, because Maisie insisted the greenhouse needed a major event. The accessible path Adrian designed curved through the live oaks. No temporary equipment. No service route. No side entrance. A path that simply worked. Helena used her wheelchair for the ceremony. Not because standing was impossible. By then she could stand with braces and support for short periods. She chose the chair because the grass was soft, the ceremony was long, and she wanted energy for dinner. No symbolic walk. No proof. No audience waiting for her body to perform a happy ending. At one point during photographs, Maisie whispered, "Can you stand for one?" Helena looked at her. Why? So I can be taller than you sitting and shorter than you standing. Helena laughed. No, Maisie shrugged. Okay, that was growth too. The silver bell appeared at the reception. Miriam placed it beside the cake. Helena stared. What are you doing? Tradition. There is no tradition. There is now. Adrian picked it up. He looked at Helena. Permission? For? He rang it. Everyone turned. Adrian announced dinner. Helena covered her face. Maisie cheered. Celeste laughed. The bell stopped being a symbol of dependence that night. It became a joke. Then a family object. Later, it sat on a shelf at home. Sometimes Maisie rang it when pizza arrived. Sometimes Helena threatened to throw it into the harbor. She never did. Years passed. Ashford Meridian became known for something Helena had never planned when she inherited it. Historic accessibility. The company learned to preserve old buildings without preserving old barriers. Adrian's firm expanded, not swallowed by Ashford Meridian. Independent, his choice. He trained carpenters in reversible access systems, historic door modifications, hidden ramps, hardware adaptations, and the unglamorous details that determined whether a beautiful room actually welcomed anyone inside. The Foundry Hotel became one of the company's most profitable properties after renovation. Everett Shaw took public credit for supporting the strategy. Helena allowed it. Quiet victories lasted longer when people were given room to join them. Her rehabilitation continued. Slowly, unevenly, she gained more supported standing, some short-assisted steps, some weeks less. Her wheelchair remained part of everyday life. Adrian never treated walking as the finish line. Neither did Maisie. Once after Helena took 9 steps in therapy, she came home expecting at least some reaction. Maisie was at the kitchen island doing homework. Helena said, 9. Maisie looked up. Math question? Steps? Oh, Maisie smiled. Nice then. Can you help me with fractions? Helena stared. That's all? Maisie looked confused. You said not to make it weird. Adrian laughed from the sink. Helena pointed. This is your fault. Probably she helped with fractions. That was the recovery payoff. Not 9 steps. The ordinary life after them. Years later, Maisie found the original carpenter's drawing of the library ramp in Adrian's files. She was 14. She brought it to Helena. I designed this. You criticized it. I added handles. You did. That makes me co-inventor. No. Royalty, also no. Maisie pointed at the sketch. Dad wrote independent deployment here. Helena looked. Adrian's handwriting. A note beside the handle. Users should not require staff assistance. Helena touched the paper. 7 years earlier, that sentence would have hurt. Now it warmed her. Maisie noticed. What? Nothing. You always say nothing when it is clearly something. Helena smiled. Your father changed that design because of you. Maisie grinned. I knew it. He never told me until later. Why? Because he didn't think it was important that he got credit. Maisie considered. That's dumb. Sometimes she looked toward Adrian in the garden. He was arguing with a contractor on the phone about hinge clearances. Still, always, Helena thought about the 12 men. She did not regret the dinners. Exactly, they had taught her something. But not what she believed at the time. She once thought the silent test separated good men from bad ones. It did not. Some of those men were probably decent. One bad decision at one threshold could not define a life. What the test actually revealed was what Helena needed to notice. Not perfection. Not confidence. Not wealth. Not willingness to help. She needed someone capable of leaving room for her answer. Adrian passed because he did not know there was something to pass. He saw a door. He asked what she wanted. She answered. He believed her. Everything after that was simply the long work of doing the same thing over and over in different forms. When Helena was angry, he asked. When Adrian was frightened, she asked. When Maisie needed reassurance, they asked. When the board disagreed, Helena listened before deciding. When a building failed someone, Adrian studied the building instead of blaming the person trying to use it. Love did not remove dependence. That had been Helena's old mistake. Love made dependence negotiable. Mutual. Chosen. Sometimes she needed Adrian. Sometimes Adrian needed her. Both needed Maisie in ways Maisie would not understand until adulthood. None of that reduced dignity. Self-sufficiency had never been the same thing as freedom. Choice was closer. The silver bell eventually moved to Helena's office at Ashford Meridian headquarters. Not beside her chair, inside a glass display case. Beneath it was a small card. Not about disability. Not about romance. Not about 12 suitors. It read, before solving the problem, ask whose problem it is. New employees assumed it was a management principle. It became one. Executives quoted it in meetings. Designers used it during reviews. Hospitality teams used it when guests complained. Adrian found this deeply amusing. You turned your dating test into corporate policy. Helena looked offended. It is broader than that. 12 men failed a bell. Stop saying it that way. It's accurate. You failed statistical methodology. I wasn't taking the test. You passed. I still think it was unfair. Helena smiled. Good thing I married you before telling you the full rubric. He kissed her. And every so often, when Helena entered the old library at Ashford House, she stopped at the terrace doorway. The walnut ramp was still there. Adrian had rebuilt the counterbalance twice. The brass threshold remained untouched beneath it. Historic, preserved, usable, she would pull the handle. The ramp would lower. She would cross. Sometimes alone. Sometimes with Adrian. Sometimes with Maisie walking beside her while talking too quickly about college, friends, and possible plans. Or whatever new crisis mattered that week. The bell was no longer there. It did not need to be. The doorway had changed. So had Helena. And the man who changed it never knew. On that first morning that anybody was watching, that was why he passed.